$105 million in deposits, 314 families, 8 years of waiting, and the court just told them their contracts never existed. Right now, at the most famous intersection in Canada, an 85-story concrete tower is still climbing toward the sky. It looks, from street level, like a triumph. Glass and steel rising over Yorkville, almost exactly as the renderings promised. But the number that no marketing brochure will ever print is $1.9 billion. That is what this building owes before a single person moves in. And the people being asked to buy it next are being handed a brochure, a new name, and a 45-day window without one public accounting of where $2 billion went. This is where it starts. Not with a crack in the concrete, with a crack in the deal itself. His name is Sam Mizrahi. In 2014, he made the boldest single bet in the history of Canadian real estate. He paid $300 million for one parcel of land at the southwest corner of Yonge and Bloor in Toronto's Yorkville neighborhood, the most coveted intersection in the country. The vision was enormous and explicit. An 85-story mixed-use supertall, luxury condominiums, a hotel, and on the ground floor, Apple's Canadian flagship store. He called it The One. He brought in Foster & Partners, the legendary British architecture firm behind some of the most celebrated towers on Earth, to design it. He told anyone who would listen this would be Canada's tallest residential building, the country's first supertall, a structure the city would define itself by for the next 100 years. The original budget was $1.4 billion. Construction began in 2017. The retail floors were supposed to open by 2018. The hotel and condominiums above were supposed to be ready by 2022 at the latest. 346 residential units were pre-sold in 2017 and 2018 at an average of $1,816 per square foot, generating $675 million in commitments from buyers who looked at those Foster & Partners renderings and believed every single line. But here is what nobody told those buyers. Before the first concrete floor was poured, the two people controlling this project had already stopped functioning as partners. And that silence is what this story is really about. The first cracks, not in the concrete but in the deal, showed up publicly in 2022. Apple sued the original developer to terminate its contract, claiming millions in damages over missed construction deadlines. The flagship Canadian store, the one that was supposed to make the ground floor of the one of the most visited retail spaces in the country, was gone. Just like that. And Mizrahi said nothing publicly to the people who had already handed over their deposits. Because the Apple lawsuit was not the real crisis. The real crisis was the relationship between Sam Mizrahi and his co-owner, road paving magnate Jenny Coco. Court filings describe their dynamic in the lender's own words: increasingly acrimonious and dysfunctional. Their disagreements were not minor disputes over finish materials or delivery windows. They were structural. Documents filed with the Ontario Superior Court show that fighting between the two principals was directly impeding the ability to complete the project. Subcontracts went unformalized. Procurement had no structure. Schedules were outdated. Labor rates in the filings significantly exceeded actual labor costs. And then it gets worse. Court documents are specific. Invoices were submitted for work that was never performed and materials that were never supplied to the site. By October 2023, concrete columns and walls had only been poured to the 40th floor. The building was supposed to be finished. Instead, it was barely halfway up. The price tag had ballooned from $1.4 billion to over $2 billion. And the buyers, the 346 people who had signed purchase agreements years earlier, were learning about the receivership the same way everyone else did. From the news. Stay with this because what comes next is worse than the construction failure. A significant number of buyers were not aware of how dire the situation had become. Realtors reported their clients expressed shock and disbelief because there had been no communication from the developer about the delays. None. These were people who had paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in deposits. In some cases, millions. On units they expected to move into years earlier. And the answer the legal system handed them was not reassuring. A Toronto real estate lawyer put it plainly in the press. The insolvency of the builder does not qualify for the return of the deposits. You could not walk away. You could not get your money back. Under the terms of their purchase agreements, buyers were not entitled to refunds unless the developer failed to complete the tower by January 2028. The developer was insolvent. The building was half-built, and the buyers were trapped. Then the receiver started going through the books. Court documents filed by Alvarez and Marcel, the restructuring firm appointed by the Ontario Superior Court, accused Mizrahi's corporation of improperly charging millions in various fees, paying itself commissions from defaulted sales that were supposed to be handed to creditors, and submitting bogus invoices for work that was not performed. The receiver found labor rates that significantly exceeded actual costs. They found missing money. They found a pattern that the court filings described not as error, but as systematic. The question was no longer whether this project was in trouble. The question was how long the people running it had known, and what they had done with the money while the buyers waited. In October 2023, South Korean bank KEB Hana Bank triggered formal receivership proceedings after Mizrahi and Coco defaulted on over $1.2 billion in loans. The Ontario Superior Court appointed Alvarez and Marcel as receiver. Mizrahi was initially allowed to remain as developer. Then the receiver replaced him with a construction management firm called Skygrid. Then Skygrid handed off to Tridel, one of Toronto's most established builders, who formally took over as development manager, construction manager, and sales lead in May of 2025. This is where the numbers become almost impossible to hold in your head at once. The receiver set a minimum sale price of $1.2 billion, 80% of creditor claims, and launched a formal process to sell the unfinished tower outright. 11 bidders submitted letters of intent. 10 submitted full development proposals. When the dust settled, not a single bid met the minimum threshold. The building could not be sold. Not even a half-built supertall at the corner of Yonge and Bloor, arguably the most valuable development site in Canada, could find a buyer willing to pay what the lenders needed. So instead of selling, they restructured. The unit count was revised. It started at 415 under Mizrahi. The receiver pushed it to 503. Tridel brought it back down to 476, then proposed cutting it further to 411 to build larger luxury units for a market that no longer wants small investor condos. Every revision is a concession. Every concession is an admission that the original plan no longer exists. And then came the move that made the buyer situation permanent. In November 2025, the court-appointed monitor filed with the Ontario Supreme Court to terminate 314 of the 329 remaining purchase agreements. The logic was blunt. The units sold in 2017 and 2018 at $1,816 per square foot could now be relaunched in 2026 at significantly higher prices. Justice Peter Osborne approved the mass cancellation. He told the disappointed buyers the outcome was imperfect, but better than nothing given the circumstances of the company's creditors' Arrangement Act proceedings. 314 people who had waited, in some cases 8 years, received refund checks and a 45-day head start to repurchase their units at the new higher prices. Right now, as you watch this, the concrete structure of 1 Bloor West has climbed to the 81st floor. The curtain wall has reached level 58. From street level, from across the city, it looks like momentum, like inevitability, like the building the renderings always showed. But the number behind that glass facade is $1.9 billion. That is the amount owed to senior secured lenders as of September 2025. The lenders get paid first. The equity is gone. Sam Mizrahi, who purchased that land for $300 million and called this the building of the century, was formally removed from the project. In August 2025, KEB Hana Bank filed a personal lawsuit against both Mizrahi and Coco, an escalation from project-level insolvency into direct personal liability. At this moment, a viral video documenting the tower's financial collapse was removed from Instagram by a third-party reputation management firm hired specifically to take it down. The content creator confirmed it publicly. Someone spent real money to make sure you did not see it. The Andaz Hotel deal that was supposed to anchor the lower floors and give the building its identity is gone. Tridel and its leasing partner are now searching for a replacement hotel operator and retail tenants for a space that Apple abandoned in a market where investor demand for Toronto condos has collapsed to levels not seen since 1996. 14 condo projects were cancelled in Toronto in 2024 alone. The market the one was designed to dominate no longer exists in the form it was promised. Tridel is targeting substantial completion by late 2026 with occupancy projected for early 2028. That is more than 6 years past the original delivery date. The buyers who come in next, the ones who will be marketed this building in 2026 under a new name with a new hotel brand with a 45-day window to beat the open market, those buyers will be purchasing into a capital structure carrying close to $2 billion in senior secured debt. That debt does not disappear when the curtain wall closes. It does not disappear when the last penthouse sells. The question of what happens to it, who absorbs it, who walks away, what it means for the long-term financial health of every unit inside that building, has not been answered in any court document filed to date. The crane at the corner of Yonge and Bloor keeps turning. The concrete keeps rising. The people who built it are gone. The people who bought it first have been paid out and sent to the back of the line. And somewhere in the floors already poured, in the accounts already audited, in the lawsuits still open in Ontario Superior Court, a number sits that nobody in the brochure will name. The building is almost finished. The accounting never will be.